I pursued as best I could the life of an explorer. And that's what I've always been. And I'm a big believer that whatever you thought about when you were a kid, whatever instinct you had when you were young, that's probably who you're supposed to be. That's probably who you are. And if you strip me all the way down to my core, and most everybody who knows me knows that I'm an explorer, and that's what I do. And I think a conversation I had with my dad that solidified that was when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And we were walking down the driveway, and he was telling me about my maternal grandfather, Wesley. And Wesley died when I was very young. I didn't know him, and I didn't know anything about him. And Dad referred to Granddaddy Wes as having gotten screwed in life. And I said, Dad, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, he was a wonderful guy, and he was my good friend, and he worked hard at a job selling chemical products all his adult life, and he did all the right things that he was supposed to do. He married your grandmother, and worked hard at paying for the house, paying all the bills, raised your mother, and got her through college, and got her married off to me, and then, but what he really dreamed about and what he talked about all the time was that he loved the mountains, and that he wanted to live in the mountains and go fly fishing. And he'd been up there a few times in Colorado and maybe Wyoming or Montana or somewhere, and he really loved all that. And he was very passionate about the mountains. And so he had this vision to retire early and to take your grandmother and the dog and the fly rods, and maybe even get a Winnebago or something and go up to the mountains and retire early at 55. And but when he was 52 years old, he came home from playing a game of tennis, and he dropped dead of a heart attack. And so he got screwed, and that's the way Dad put it in his fatherly way. And and that left a deep impression on me, and I didn't realize how much until later in life. But I decided then and there that I was not going to get screwed, and I had seen just enough of the world. I had been to the Caribbean, I've been to the mountains in Colorado, and just enough to know that there was a great big world out there, and I was excited by it. And I'd certainly seen on my favorite TV shows how life can be for some people. I didn't know how Marlon Perkins got that job. I was always fascinated about how does a guy get a job like that, running around photographing animals and doing all kinds of adventurous stuff. And so I set about finding jobs, not so much motivated by money as it was motivated by adventure. And when I did a semester in college after high school at Texas Tech, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I came home and told my parents I was going to go to work for a while, and that went over like a lead balloon. And but I did, and I went to work for uh, my first big adventure was getting a job with a barge line out of Galveston called Arthur Smith Barge Line, and I became a deckhand on a tugboat. And no, actually, before that, right after I left Texas Tech, I went up to Amarillo. I'll tell you the tugboat story later. But I went up to Amarillo, Texas to work for a friend of mine's father on his farm. And he gave me a trailer on their farm, and gave me a job. And I, after the Christmas break, I got in my car in Houston, Texas. I was wearing a pair of cutoff shorts and a t-shirt and some flip-flops. And I drove for 10, 11 hours up to Amarillo. And when I got there in early January, it was a blizzard, a whiteout blizzard. The driving conditions just got worse and worse and worse. We were in the middle of what they call a blue norther, and I finally couldn't find my way, and I had to go to a farmhouse and get the guy to come and get me. I was close, but I couldn't make it because you could not see the road, and so I got there and I worked for him for a while. God, what a job that was, repairing roofs on his rental properties. And we'd go out in the middle of these, snowstorms to feed the cows and replace fence posts. And you've never lived until you've dug in the hard ground in a blizzard, trying to sink a fence post. After that, I wanted a job inside, and for a few weeks, I got a job with Iowa beef processors at a slaughterhouse, and what a job that was. There's a line in the movie The Big Chill, and it always sticks with me. I saw it not too long ago, and it's right at the first of the movie when they're in that funeral, and he's asking, where did Alex's hope go? And he describes the deceased Alex as he says, a brilliant physics student from the University of Michigan. He subsequently turned his back on science and tasted of life through a seemingly random series of occupations. And and when I look back over the course of my whole life, of these 58 years, it has been a long random series of occupations. And the consistent thread through all of it has been adventure and exploration. That's why I wanted to see the world. I wanted to look around and taste of life, and that's the only way sometimes you can do it. Maybe you can find a career that will consistently pay you to do these sorts of things, but I never found it, so I just did whatever I could to allow me to continue that forward motion of exploration. And after I, dumped Iowa beef processors and went home out of the snow, I got back to Houston and the sun was shining and it was warm down there. And so a friend told me about Arthur Smith Barge Lines, and I went and got a job with them. And I was a deckhand on a tugboat on the Intercoastal Waterway from about Brownsville at the border of Mexico all the way through Texas and the swamps of Louisiana, which are the darkest, most reptile and insect infested jungles I've ever seen around this planet, truly. And all the way to the locks at the Mississippi River. That's how far I got in 6-7 weeks time of working with them, 1 week on and 1 week off, and I made some extra money. And I painted, I cooked, I was the oiler, I was the night watchman. When the captain is driving through the night on the Intercoastal, you always have to have another man awake to make sure he stays awake. So you have to sit up there with the captain in the wheelhouse late at night and listen to him spin yarns. This guy's name was Captain Ken. And Captain Ken had these stories about Vietnam that you had to listen to. You knew they were all lies, but it kept you awake and kept you laughing and kept you wondering. And in the morning time, when the barges are running low in the water, they give you a big stick and you go out there and knock all the snakes and even little alligators off of the barges. And when you're back there in Louisiana and East Texas, there's a lot of snakes and alligators out there. And so that's how it started. And because I had Seaman's papers that they had helped me obtain with the Arthur Smith Barge Lines, that led me into a job interview with a company called Geosource in Houston in 1978. And that's what introduced me to oil and gas exploration.